What's up everyone and welcome back to Reload Reacts episode 46. My name is Trey and today we are going to look through r/MaliciousCompliance, the subreddit for those who are technically following all of their given directions, but not the spirit of what they actually mean. This first post is by Goofball1963. Customer wants a man to help him. Okay. I worked at a mid-sized hardware store as a salesman. I had been working in the construction industry for 15 years and at this store for at least 10 years. I knew almost everything about how to do home repair projects and what was needed to fix the problems. At this time, we had a girl at the sales counter named Bonnie, not her real name but it will do. She was also very knowledgeable and one of our best salespeople. We were both behind the counter one day. She was standing at the counter and I was doing paperwork at a desk. An older guy comes up to the counter and asks Bonnie if she can help him. No, I need a man that knows what he is doing to help me. Bonnie is peeved, so she turns to me and asks me to take over. Sure, no problem. Cue up my warped sense of humour. Sir, what can I help you with? He states the problem. I immediately turn around and restate the issue to Bonnie. She casually answers and then I turn back around and repeat exactly what Bonnie had just said. He asks another question. And I repeat the question to Bonnie, then repeat her answer to the customer. Every question he asked me, I turned and asked Bonnie, then repeated her answer to him. Yes, I knew all the answers, but the guy was being a prick, so I decided to give him a little lesson. He wanted a man to help him. Okay. The top comment reads, I love it. What a great way to stand up for and with Bonnie and make the customer look like the idiot he was. Yeah, I agree with that, I would do the same thing. This next post is by Coffee Brew Crew. You want me to review everything always? Okay. First time poster, long time reader. So, I'm currently part-time in a pharmacy. Been a tech for almost 10 years and we are fairly busy consistently every day, even on weekends. We got metrics, we got expectations and, you guessed it, we always get more stuff to do that makes no logical sense with the demand of the store. A few months ago our district manager came by and did an audit. We did fine besides a few things but now required. We asked for almost everything when someone picks up meds. We aren't talking about verifying allergies or conditions. No, he wants us to ask about that, immunizations, pushing for the Plus service, using the online app, asking if they know someone to transfer here, basically about 12 tasks per person. The issue, as it always is with district managers, is that they want metrics but don't understand how detrimental they are to ask for when you're also wanting us to get a good score, which also is ranked by how fast we service people. So we don't do all of it, but when he comes in we have to do it. And since he was here a week ago, decided to let him see how slow all this stuff can be. It was around 3 PM the Friday prior to Memorial Day, so everyone's getting set to go out of town including him, but he's stopping in to check on things for reasons. Anyway, it's busy and we're down a person because of sickness. And since he's here, well, time to cue the malicious compliance. I have a patient come up and I ask her everything. Got allergies, medical conditions, need shots? Have you heard about online delivery? Do you want to? Do you have specific questions on your medication? We have an online pet pharmacy, did you know that? Also, in case you change your mind about shots, did you want to report? Need any other refills? By the time I'm done, she had to get counselled anyway and we had a line of 6 people behind them. She asked me why there was so much to ask for a simple pickup when I brought her down and I told her, well, this is our district manager and he wants us to make sure you're well informed. If you have any questions, while he's here, I'll gladly listen. Yeah, he didn't like that because she complained and someone else in line after did the same thing due to the wait. Anyway, soon after, we were asked to use our best judgment when it comes down to informing people for the needs of the business. Thanks, District Manager. The top comment reads, yes, use your best judgment. I'm gonna need that in writing, along with an in-writing assurance that our judgment won't be questioned short of a catastrophic foul-up. This next post is by JRRDNX. Minimum payment is $5. Okay. We've had 5G home internet from one of the top 3 cellular providers in the US for the past year or so, but recently had fiber lines ran to our area. As soon as we got the new service connected, I called to cancel our 5G. I called 5 days before the end of the month's billing cycle and was told it just wouldn't renew, but nothing more would be due since the month was prepaid. Received our final bill a few days ago for a whopping 17 cents. Less than the cost of the stamp it would take to mail a check. Instructions were to go pay online, but when I entered the account number and payment amount, it wouldn't allow me to continue as the minimum amount I can pay is $5. So I paid the $5. Instead of letting me pay the 17 cents and be done with it, they can pay what it takes to send me a check for $4.83. This next post is by Furtive Fox 88. Don't use the good water for coffee? Okay. I've read some malicious compliance stories pertaining to coffee and decided to share my own. My family owns a funeral home, and I would work there for a summer job when I was in high school. While working there, I would show up before everyone and make the coffee for the day, and do some light cleaning. The break room, where the coffee machine was, also had your standard office water cooler, so I would make the coffee with the good water. One day, I was making the coffee and my grandfather, the boss, showed up and asked why I was using the expensive water instead of the tap. I told him the tap water makes the coffee taste like S. I know because I made it with tap water once, took a sip, then poured it right down the drain. He didn't believe it was that bad. He made his coffee from tap at home and it's fine. Note: he never once drank the office coffee. He drank his at home with breakfast. What he didn't take into account was that while the funeral home was nice and remodeled, very old building, the pipes were not, because the water was used to flush toilets and wash hands, not for drinking. He insisted tomorrow that I use the tap. The coffee would mask the taste and no one would tell the difference. Okay, you're the boss. The next day I make the coffee with the tap. Now on this day, we had a funeral that morning. 2 funeral directors, some members of the family of the deceased, the preacher, and I were in the break room, trading small town gossip when one of the directors took a big chug of the coffee. The machine was old, the coffee came out hot, but the hot plate would only keep it lukewarm, and immediately spewed it all over the preacher, ruining his white dress shirt. This was also the first time I ever heard a preacher curse, lol. The funeral was delayed 30 minutes while the preacher ran home to change. Needless to say, I was allowed to make the coffee with the expensive water from then on. It's still something we all laugh about to this day, even the preacher. Edit: there seems to be some confusion about the water. Tap water, faucet water, city water, whatever you call it where you live, it's water that has been treated at a water treatment plant, mixed with chloride and fluoride, and pumped back into your home so you can make mac and cheese to go with your dino nuggies. It's not grey water. When I said the water was used to flush toilets and wash hands, not for drinking, I meant no one cared about the taste. We weren't a restaurant or a residential. We just need to clean stuff and make our poop go down. Maybe the faucet needed to be taken off and soaked in CLR, or maybe the old pipes are getting rusty. Hell, maybe they're lead pipes. I don't know, this was almost 20 years ago. I may stop by, get a sample and have it tested. I live in another town now. My point was, no one is drinking from the break room sink faucet, because why would they? We provided the water cooler and a fridge full of bottled water. Hope that cleared up any misunderstandings. This next post is by West_Bike6088. Told I had to let my dog off leash? Alright then. So this happened in our local park. There's a big field where people walk their dogs. Sign says dogs must be under control. Leads recommended. I usually keep mine on a lead. He's an older collie, not aggressive, but doesn't like being bounced on by younger dogs. One day, a bloke with a hyper spaniel walks past and tells me, "Bit pointless walking your dog if you're just gonna keep it on a lead, mate." I explain that my dog prefers it, but he cuts me off and says, "Just let him off, it'll be fine. That's what this space is for." Alright. Next day, I let my dog off. Sure enough, Spaniel comes bounding over, all energy. My dog, clearly not in the mood, flips in onto his back and stands over him like a bouncer at closing time. Spaniel runs off yelping. Bloke glares at me. I just smiled and said, "Off lead zone, remember?" Didn't see him again for a while. This next post is by Sweet Girl. Told to stop wasting time on customer chats? Okay, no more small talk, ever. I'm a cashier at a small hardware store. My manager, Dave, is obsessed with efficiency. Last week, he chewed me out for chatting with a regular about his DIY project. Said, stop wasting time with customers, scan items, take payment, done. His exact words, no one cares about your little conversations. Fine, Dave. Now I'm a robot. Scan items, state total, bag stuff, no eye contact, no words beyond cash or card. Customers are confused. One old guy even asked, you okay, kid? You're usually so chatty. I just shrugged and said, store policy. Sales dropped a bit because our regulars love the personal touch. Yesterday, Dave got a complaint from a loyal customer who said the store's lost its charm. He's been glaring at me, but can't say anything since I'm following his orders to a T. Now he's stuck doing damage control, and I'm just here scanning like a good little robot. The top comment reads, should have put up a sign saying no small talk allowed per management in front of the register while at work. Someone replied and said, don't make me tap the sign. Yeah, I agree with that one. Because it is his fault, and I feel like businesses don't understand how important the personal touch is to some work, especially things like retail. This next post is by Jagoff22. The only battle I ever won with a college. I went to a college back in the early 70s, close to the last era, when you could kind of pay your way while going to school. I lived off campus, rode my bike to school, worked at the college/hospital, loading dock part-time during school and full-time the rest of the year. I avoided additional fees like parking permits, and it was before big student activity fees. Upon completion of my degree, I received a letter from Harvard of the Cuyahoga that asked for $150 as a matriculation fee. As I was not attending graduation, I called and asked why. I was informed it was for my diploma. I had spent over 2 years of my life at this particular school finishing my degree and had to pay them 1970s figures, just to be clear, don't laugh, about $14,000 to date. I had kind of assumed the diploma was included. My diploma was included in high school and I didn't pay them a thing. So I asked if I would still be able to get transcripts if I did not pay the fee and they said yes. I thanked them for their time. Cool. I got on with life still in the same city. About 7 years later, I get a call from the dean's office and the nice lady explains they have my diploma sitting in a drawer and could they please messenger it over to me. They would really like to get rid of it. I think that is the only battle I ever won with a college. This next post is by Son of a Mormon. Making the insurance company pay. So I get a migraine medicine in pill form and also as a nasal spray. My doctor told me to use the spray if it's a really bad one and otherwise use the pills. I went to the pharmacy today to pick up my meds and they said I could only get one because the insurance was blocking the second. They told me that it didn't make sense to block my nasal spray because they had different forms of medicine. The pharmacy tech offered to have someone call the insurance company and see if they could get an override. The insurance told the pharmacy that I'm not allowed both the pills and the spray. They said they're the same thing. They're not. The insurance said they would pay for 3 milliliters of the spray but not 6. It comes in a bottle with 6. So they want the pharmacy to somehow give me half a bottle of nasal spray? Anyway, I usually only fill these every 3 to 4 months, so like 4 times a year at most. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. The pharmacist told me I'm allowed to fill either the sprays or the spray every 25 days, so theoretically I could alternate filling each one and get it more often. That was at the beginning of the year, so tomorrow is the day I'll fill another prescription, making it 3 of each so far. That's how many I used all of last year. At this rate, I'll have 7 fills of each by the end of December. This next post is by RKC. Coworker creates fake document to prove rule is stupid. Back in the mid-1980s, I worked for a company that made manufacturing equipment that ran on an internal network. I had to learn it to support it. They had recently rewritten the interface from the ground up, but the documentation was the earlier version, so I was kinda lost. I turned out to be proficient at writing documentation, so I volunteered to rewrite the doc as I was learning the system. In doing so, I discovered a strange appendix to the doc that got me incredulous, and then got me cracking up. But first, a bit of background. There was a rule that had been handed down a couple years before, that any document that a customer might ever see, even a highly technical document, had to be read and approved by the marketing department. A coworker wanted to test this, so they wrote this appendix that was purporting to describe the networking protocol involved in the system. It was approved with no changes by marketing. What did it describe? A protocol called the TP protocol. Rather than being a 7-layer network, it could be implemented as a 2 or 3-layer network. Each layer called a ply. So 2-ply or 3-ply. The messages were identical sized, and the end of message was called a perf. There was a potential issue to be fixed later, that a cancel character could cause it to pause until manually cleared. This was called sitting on the can. It went on from there, similarly, for several pages. I wish I could remember more. I saved a copy but couldn't find it. I left the appendix in with my version 2, manual, after checking with my manager and him forwarding my doc to marketing. Toilet humor. Classic. This next post is by JEMULL. I brought the company to a standstill to make a point. I worked in the engineering department of a small manufacturing company, around 70 to 80 employees. My responsibility, among other things, was to handle any design changes, edit part and assembly drawings, bills of materials, etc. Previously, this was all handled by putting together a packet of actual paper documents that had to be shuffled from engineering to manufacturing, sometimes ping-ponging back and forth if we were doing something complicated that required input from various people within those departments. Eventually, the company started to implement a software-driven procedure that was supposed to eliminate the stacks of paper that would sometimes get lost on someone's desk. The problem was that our bare-bones staff didn't really have the time to learn all the ins and outs of the software and refine the process to be truly efficient. Basically, it was left so that if an item was entered into an engineering change order, it was locked down so that no one could build one. But also a customer couldn't even order one, or any machine that this item happened to be a component of, until the change process was completed. Sometimes this could take weeks. I tried explaining several times that if we ever had to work on some item that is used in several of our products, this would bring everything to a screeching halt. My manager at the time understood this, but could never get all of the people who needed to work on the software procedure to sit down and finalize everything. One day, I was tasked with changing the design of a hardware component that was used in every machine we built. I told my manager that as soon as I started the process, no one in sales would be able to enter an order for any customers until the process would be completed. He shrugged and said, "Do it," knowing that I was right. Within 30 minutes of getting started, a salesman came to my desk asking why he couldn't enter an order. I explained what was happening. He left, and soon after, the VP of the company was at my desk asking what needed to be done. So I told him he needed to corral everyone needed to hash out how the software was supposed to work properly, instead of the half-aid, just lock everything down deal they left off with. He immediately called in whoever was on that list. It took a few days, as I recall, and the component in question was expedited to be approved within the week. To this day, I use this story in interviews whenever I'm asked one of those questions like, "Give me an instance where you had to solve a major problem in the workplace." This last post is by Frequent Couple 5498. GM didn't like the new owners making change. A few years ago, I decided to get a second part-time job for extra cash at a well-known burger place. When I started, I heard that the GM, we'll call her Tammy, was pretty new at her job, and no one seemed to like her much. I soon found out why. She was demanding, didn't know how to talk to people at all. She liked to scream instead. and acted like she was the queen bee that everyone had to wait on. When breakfast was over and I went to throw away all the extra sausages, one of my co-workers rushed over and said, "No, wait, you have to save one for Tammy, she'll be here soon." So about 11 AM, Tammy comes waltzing in and goes straight to her office. All of my co-workers start rushing around to make her a large iced tea and a sausage breakfast sandwich. Someone takes it into her. She comes barreling out of her office screaming that the sausage wasn't fresh for her liking, so make her another. I was just like, wow. Then she comes out and walks around and just yells at people about everything. I was already thinking at this point that I don't think I will be here long, but thank goodness I only worked morning shifts, so I only had to deal with her for a couple of hours. Tammy was the worst boss I have ever encountered in all of my working life. Our site was recently sold to another company and they sent in Kevin to make some changes. He was a nice enough guy, but every change he made, as soon as he left, Tammy would yell at us for doing things differently, Kevin's way, and not the way she likes them done. We would say, "But Kevin said we are to do it from this way now on." And Tammy would yell, "I don't care what Kevin wants. This is my store, I'm the GM and I want things my way. She told us not to worry about Kevin, she will handle him." And I'm thinking, okay Tammy, but aren't these people your boss? You don't own the store, they do. But okay big boss Tammy, whatever you say. So the next day, Kevin comes in early before Miss Tammy. I continue to do things the way Tammy wants them done because that's what she told us to do. When Kevin approached me and said, "Why are you doing things the old way? I thought I showed you the changes that I have made." And I answered, "Yes, Kevin. I'm sorry, I know I try to do things the way you showed us, but Tammy said she is the GM and this is her store, and she told us not to worry about what you say, and to only worry about what she tells us to do." Kevin said nothing, but made a strange face. When Tammy came in, they went into her office. I wish I were a fly on the wall. He left not long after, and she came out screaming at everyone about the times in drive-thru. I swear, she just liked yelling. It didn't even matter what it was about. I left that day and just never went back. I'm too old to deal with some manager that is way too big for her bridges. About a month later, I go to another fast food place nearby and lo and behold, Tammy is at the window. She looks viably embarrassed when she sees me. She hesitates as she starts to hand me my food, and I hear a woman in the back say to her in an impatient voice, "Tammy, what are you doing? We have times to worry about." She whispers, "I know," and hands me my bag as I smile and drive away. The next day I went to my old place for lunch and asked them what happened to Tammy. They gleefully told me that just a couple days after I quit, that Kevin fired her because she kept refusing to do things his way. He also told her he didn't like how she talked to people. They all seemed so happy, and I would make sure to visit Tammy's new place every now and then because it's so fun to see her have her big ego crushed. And I think that's going to be it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the stories in r/MaliciousCompliance. Let me know what you'd like to listen to next in the comment section below, and also please consider hitting that subscribe button because I post new Reddit content every single day. There are 2 videos on the screen right now, one of which is for the most recent video, and another is for the video the YouTube algorithm thinks you want to watch next. My name is Trey, this was Reload Reacts, and I will see you in the next video.